What's going on, people? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Open Doors Podcast. I'm your host, I'm your friend, I'm your moderator. It's your boy, Chris Harris. I want to thank you for taking the time to check out this podcast. Before we do anything today, I want you to hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, do it right now. So you don't have to look for this next episode that's dropping week in and week out. You don't have to search for it. It'll come right to you. Also, I'm on Instagram. Connect with me. Connect with me. Follow me, I'll follow you. All right? I also want to acknowledge the dream team today. I want to acknowledge Blessed Productions, my boy Alfred. Also, Eyes Have Not Seen, Maryland. They are my dream team. They are the driving force behind this podcast. They are the ones who make this podcast successful. And remember, as much as you subscribe, share each episode because I'm sure the things that we talk about, there's someone who you're connected to who wants to get in on a discussion. But today, on Open Doors, I have a guest. This brother right here, what can I say about him who's with us today? He has many hats. He's a musical artist. He's a musician. He's a minister. I remember this brother at church. He was even playing the drums. He's a father. He's a husband. He's a mentor. He's a role model. He's everything. It's my boy, Joshua Free. Joshua, welcome to Open Doors. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, thank you for taking the time to join Open Doors today. How you been, man?
I've been good, man.
You been good?
Yep.
You know, I wanted you on Open Doors podcast for a reason. I saw you minister, I think in October. You were ministering and you was telling your story. And I didn't know certain things about you as you were ministering. You were telling, I always see you're in media, you do spoken word, you're a musical artist, as I was saying. I see you, doing your music thing, and I see you, we talk and everything, we say what's up, but I didn't know your story. So briefly, because you have a story. I think everybody needs to know this story, because I see you as a man of God, but you wasn't there overnight. You didn't arrive there overnight. So kind of briefly tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become this person today? Because you weren't always there.
Yeah, bet. So you know what I mean? Like I always say, my story is one that would need a lot of time for me to tell. But if I had to summarize it, um, my journey to where I'm at, man, it's been a long one. I've been through a lot of different phases in my life. Um, I was raised, I had a good upbringing, I had a good family home, and I still went through a lot of trouble and hard times as a youth. I was a troubled youth. From being in and out of juvenile, being kicked out of schools, being expelled of schools, being in the streets, committing criminal activities, gang affiliated, a lot of things. But I lived a lot of different lives, man, and um, my faith in God and the gift of music are the two things that mainly God used in my life to reroute the path that He has for me. Um, there's been a lot of different chapters in my life, and they're still unfolding. But where I find myself today, I'm very open about my story. I use what I've been through to help others who are going through things similar to what I've been through in life. I believe that we all go through things. God allows us to go through things, and it's not just for ourselves. It's for one for ourselves is to make us stronger, but it's also to help others who are going to go through those things or who are currently going through those things to learn from us, to learn from our mistakes, to learn from what we learned, and our failures to help them succeed, and just to help others get through what they're going through in life. Period. So everything that I've been through, I'm pretty much an open book, man. I try to be real. I try to use it to encourage people in their walk, in their life, encourage people to be closer to God, because that's definitely the one thing that changed my story for the better. So that's how I put it.
Awesome. So I want to touch on that a little bit because when you were ministering and I was watching you, you talked about how you had been arrested so many times, armed robbery, you a stick up kid, different things that you have been through. But now I see you as this mentor, this this changed man of God. So was there a point in your life after you were getting in so much trouble and going through the system and everything? Was there a point where it clicked? Something happened where now I want to go a different route. If so, touch on that for me.
I mean, there's a lot of points in my life. One point, I was 15 years old, and it was the summer of my freshman year going into sophomore year. And me and some of my friends, they got in some trouble during the summertime. So, we was doing stuff that we had no business doing. Robbing people, breaking into people's houses, beating people up, and all types of stuff. We had some guns in our hands that we came across, um, and we just ended up getting in a situation where I ended up being charged for armed robbery. A couple of my friends, we were in a situation, we are doing some ratchet stuff pretty much. But that situation, man, my friends was good friends, but we was young. We was under the influence of a lot of stuff that we didn't necessarily need to be under the influence of. And that was really just why I grew up. We had a lot of time on our hands and we was free. And it wasn't that we didn't come from good homes. A lot of us had good families. A lot of us had both of our parents in the house. Some of us didn't. Some of us came from single family homes. But um, we had a lot of time on our hands back then. We were allowed to be out. Nowadays, it's like kids are in the house a lot more. You got to worry about kids getting kidnapped, abducted, stuff like that. Our parents will let us go out, do our thing. And in the midst of that, there's things you discover, whether it be drugs, smoking weed, alcohol, gang banging, just stuff that people do in the streets, and crime. Sometimes we was robbing people, sometimes we was breaking into people's houses. Just a lot of stuff, man. I mean, the worst stuff that I did, I can't really even talk about. But that situation, I ended up losing a year of my life. My whole sophomore year, I was locked up, and I was facing a long time. I was facing 6 to 15, 6 to 25, something like that. And I had an opportunity where I could have walked clean. They wanted me to. Uh, they pretty much wanted me to turn in and testify against my friend, but I wasn't going to do that. Um, and long story short, uh, he ended up catching probation. Man, I ended up serving like a year. I got out, and I was on thin ice. And a lot of those friends from back then, I'm still cool with. We all grown, living our own lives now. But there was another case where I was maybe 18, 19 years old, um, where I had caught a felony, um, and in a situation with some friends. Some stuff got stolen. It was a burglary type situation, but it all fell on me. Long story short, it all fell on me, and I can't even say that I did the most in the situation. But I wasn't willing to talk in the situation, and it ended up falling on me. But I believe that God allows um, people to go through things for them to learn. I was playing with fire, and I was living a life that wasn't really for me. God didn't really call me to be out there in the streets. That wasn't really who I was. It was just what I fell into. It was just what I was around, what I was under the influence of. And for a lot of my friends too, it's good friends and loyal friends are good people. But we a lot of us had to learn the hard way. And in those situations and other situations, we had to learn the hard way, man. But I was getting a lot of trouble. Between 13 and 18, I was in and out of jail a lot. You know what I'm saying? I was getting kicked out of almost every school I was in. Middle school, I got expelled of every year. Freshman year, I got kicked out the end of the year. I missed my whole sophomore year, and then my junior year, I ended up dropping out to stay out of some legal trouble. I was on probation at the time. I ended up getting my GED, at a young age, and started studying music. But in that whole time, I had already started rapping. I was already in the streets, and we grew up in the era of real gangster rap. So that's what we was talking about. It was stuff like Tupac and Bone Thugs and Harmony, and just real street stuff. Twister, man, like in the Midwest. There's a lot of gangs around. It's a lot of violence around, a lot of drugs around. It was very accessible to us. So that's part of what I was into. But like I said, God was very gracious to me, and allowed me to receive His grace in those situations where my life could have been gone before it started. God gave me grace and gave me second chance, gave me third chance. Um, and at a certain point, I stopped getting in trouble. Well, a lot of friends that I have, they never stopped. They never outgrew that. But My faith in God, number one, and like I said, the gift of music were the two things that really alter my path to get away from that lifestyle. And even in that, it's still been a long process for me to become who I am. And I'm still a work in progress. I ain't all the way there yet. We always are going to be a work in progress in one level of life or another. But I'm blessed to be where I'm at. Um, there's people who left a long time ago. There's people that weren't as fortunate as me to receive the grace and mercy in life, whose life ended a long time ago before it even started. And so I'm very thankful that I'm here today to be able to tell my story, the stuff that I can tell, and really try to help the youth um, avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell in when I was young, to help them not go down some of the roads that I went down. That they're being faced with these situations nowadays too. And a lot of times it's even more advanced, more extreme at a younger age, that they're being faced with these things than what me and the kids I grew up with are going through. So I'm doing my best to be a positive impact to them from where I'm at today.
Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. As you were talking, I was like, man, you were putting your parents through it. Getting out of school, everything you had to go through. I said they probably had gray hair even then. But you touched on something that I want to talk about as well, because you were talking about, you and your friends, and you said some came from good homes. You said yourself came from a good home. So I did an episode and I was saying, what do you do when there's no father in the house? But that's not necessary. Because you don't have a father in the house doesn't mean that you're going to go a different route. So you had both of your parents in your house. You had a father and a mother, but you still went a certain way and endured certain things. So touch on that for me. Touch on that for me.
You know what? I just say, man, sometimes you can have parents that are there and not there, and that wasn't the case with me. That might have been the case for some of my friends. You know what I mean? But I think that ultimately, um, we were good at keeping a lot of things from our parents. Our parents trusted us. I had great parents growing up. I can't put up nothing of what I did on my parents because they didn't raise me like that. And even friends that I had that was worse than me, that was leading a lot of these operations and these decisions that we was making. They had good parents too. So it wasn't like just because you have two parents in your home that everything is going to go right. And sometimes you might not have two parents in the home and it might go even better. It just depends on the situation. I think it just depends on what you're exposed to. And we was exposed to stuff. It was all around. Like I said, growing up, weed and drugs was being sold around us. You know what I'm saying? Gangs was in the neighborhoods that we was growing up in. And you see people and you see the stuff that they have. You see the nice cars they have. You see the money they have. They got the females with them. And it's stuff that you want to idolize and you look up to. The music, the culture that we was raised around. And it had a strong influence on us. Even just music itself is powerful, man. And the music that we was listening to, it had our mind, which was already intoxicated, had our mind in a whole nother direction than um, how we should have been thinking at a young age. A lot of us grew up fast. We grew up fast. We might have been 13, 14, living a life of somebody who's 21, 22. I remember being 14, 15 years old, sneaking into the club, taking my brother's ID, going to the club. I'm 14 years old in the club, with the adults. A lot of us grew up fast, and a lot of us had older friends that showed us things at a young age. Um, and if your parents was working, my parents was working, so they weren't there all the time to watch us, and they trusted us to, to be okay. That's just how it was when I grew up, and as a result of that, you come across things, you learn things, you pick up certain things, you pick up certain behaviors, and it's whatever was around you. Where I grew up at, I was raised in Waukegan, North Chicago, Zion area. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like the low end of the suburbs. It ain't, it ain't the hood, but it ain't the rich, nice suburbs. It was going down there. It was people banging there. It was people getting shot there. It was people selling drugs. It's people, doing everything that you would do in the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. It was areas like that around where I grew up. So, man, it's part of just what we experienced growing up.
Definitely, definitely. So I recently critiqued the video, and you saw the video. It was a kid's birthday party, And I was saying that normally in a kid's birthday party, kids have a certain theme where maybe it's the cartoon character, sports character, sports, something like that, Marvel action figure. But this one, the theme was they had money, and the kids were dancing with money. They were playing with guns. They had blunts, and they had alcohol. So you saw the video. What's your take on the video?
I mean, man, to me, it's out of order. I can't really speak on how somebody else is going to raise their kids, but I definitely believe that we got to do our best to be a good influence to our kids. Um, you know, how you raise up a child is most likely going to determine which route they take in life, and it's hard for me to watch because I'm not raising my kids like that. And my parents didn't raise me like that, and we still fell into stuff. But I think when you put it in their lap, they're more likely to go that route, obviously, because it's what they're being handed. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna hand our kids something one way or another. And it's really like, what are you gonna hand your kids? Are you gonna hand them a gun? You gonna hand them a blunt? You're gonna hand them some, whatever you're doing that you shouldn't necessarily even be doing in the adult age you're at a young age, and that's what they're gonna do. So it's hard to watch, but my heart goes out to this generation of kids, man, because like I said, this is an example of them growing up even quicker than we did. We was learning about stuff in our teens, and a lot of my friends was learning about this stuff at 7, 8, 9 years old too. But when you got kids that are 5, 6 years old and they're being handed this stuff because their parents think it's cool, to me it's not cool. You know what I'm saying? But all I can do is try to be a good influence to the kids in my life, to my children, to those that I have an influence on, and try to be that light. And man, pray for kids that's going through stuff like that because we can't control how other people are going to raise their kids, and that's an example of that.
Definitely, definitely. Now, today, as we sit here, you're a father.
Yeah.
Now, I said when I was looking at the video, I can assume, I don't know for sure if those brothers who were back there, as the little kids were their father, but we make the assumption. We make the assumption.
Yeah.
So you're a father now. You have kids. I made a statement, and I want to get your take on it. I said that what we endured, like you talk about your story and what you had to endure, a father doesn't want their son to, or their daughter to endure the same thing. Like you said, like we're passing something on one way or another. But what you had to go through, your struggles, most fathers don't want their kids to go through those same struggles or endure the same ups and downs they did. Speak on that for me as today as you sit here as a father.
Well, I think for me, the age that I became a father, I was like 27, 28 years old. And some people are fathers even younger than that. So I really think it depends on what age in life you become a father. Because I got friends that became a father at 14, 15 years old. One of my good friends that I grew up with, man, he was a father at 15, I believe. And he a great father today. He got grandkids, you know what I'm saying? All of that. But you can only give people what you have at that age. Like we say, if I only knew then what I know now. At 28 years old, I was blessed to be at a point in life where I understood what I went through as a child a lot more than I would have if I became a father in a teenage age. You know what I'm saying? So when my daughter was born, I mean, I was covering her in prayer, man. Um, and I still do to this day. I cover both my children, and um, I think that we definitely should not want anybody to go through what we went through. That we got to fight spiritually. We have to cover our children so that they don't go through what we went through. Like I said, with my daughter, man, before she was born, I was praying for her. I was covering her in prayer. God, don't allow my daughter to go through anything I went through in life. And I did it so much that I even received a couple words prophetically. That your daughter will never go through what you went through. And I'm so thankful to God for that because there's things that I went through that I would never want anybody's kids to go through, let alone my own. But I had to fight, man. I had to fight spiritually and cover my child in prayer. And I would just encourage any other parent out there that's listening, pray for your children, cover them in prayer because it's things that only God can do to protect your children that you can't do. We can only do so much. We're not always going to be there, but God's always going to be there. So for me, that's the solution for me. For me to not want my children to go through what I went through, with the control that I have, I put it in God's hands, and I cover my children in prayer, and I trust Him because that's all I can do. But that's also the best thing that I can do is pray for them, cover them with the word, give God His own word, and He comes through every time for me.
Amen. Amen. So let me ask you this question. Because one day I was talking and I said that the failures or the mistakes that the men before me that they had, it can actually be a blessing to me because I see it. So I have the opportunity to make a decision and go a different way. I want you to now look at like your father. Maybe you have your older brothers, some uncles and stuff like that. Can you look back and say, man, what I saw actually was a blessing to me because it helped me make a lot of decisions for good for my life and go a different way. Talk to me about that.
I can agree with that, but I also think it depends. It's subjective. For me, my path isn't necessarily the path that my predecessors are going to walk down. For me, um, God's called me to be a trailblazer. God's called me to be somebody that um, sets a lot of standards in his family. So for me, I'm trying to be that one that people learn from. And that's why I'm very open with what I've been through. That's why I share my story so that people can learn from it because um, I'm blessed to have a lot of nieces and nephews, and the ones that I'm fortunate to have a closer relationship with that actually come to me for guidance, that come to me and ask me, hey, what about this? What about that? What should I do? And what do you think? I tell them the truth. I tell them what I learned. Success is learning from your failures in a large capacity. What success is learning from failing. Anybody who's really succeeded in life knows that you have to fail before you succeed. So for me, um, I have nephews that I give game to. Man, hey, look, if this is what you're dealing with in life, this is what I've learned. This is what it is. This is what you should do. This is what you should not do. But it all depends, man. And I think that um, you definitely have to learn from those around you. Whoever is a good leader is always going to allow people to learn from them. And I think that being transparent with what you've been through is part of that because a lot of leaders, they go through stuff, but they don't want to be seen for their weaknesses, which is understandable. But I think that the best thing that we can do is be transparent because that allows people to learn from our mistakes, from our weaknesses, from our flaws, to be stronger than we are. And we should always want the generation that's coming after us to go further than us. You know what I'm saying? Because we're gonna pass that baton to them. Life is a marathon; it's not a sprint, and we're gonna pass that baton to somebody. And whoever you pass it to, in my opinion, you're gonna give them an advantage to know how to run that race and how to run that marathon by being real with them and sharing what you've been through so they can learn from, even if it's your failures, to learn from your failures so they succeed. So that's how I feel about that.
Awesome. Awesome. You mentioned a couple times how music played a big role in your life.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how music played a big role. Why was music so important to you, or why music is so important?
Because man, music is powerful. Music is one of the most powerful things in life itself. It's one of the things that can split both hemispheres of the brain. We have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind, and our conscious mind has the ability to resist certain ideas, resist certain influences because we're aware of it. But our subconscious mind, music penetrates that mind and it receives it. So when people say, "Oh no, it's just music," they don't understand. Yeah, it is just music, but what you're taking in is penetrating your mind. And it's going to your spirit. And it's a point of influence. It's a point of entering your soul. And I think that for me, it was something positive that gave me an outlet to express my life, what I was going through, what I was learning. It kept me out of trouble because it kept me out of the streets. It kept my time from being idle. And it gave me something to do constructively, to produce, to be productive with. It opened a lot of doors for me. As it says in the Bible in Proverbs 18:16, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before a great man. So for me, music has done that. It's opened a lot of doors for me. It's created a lot of opportunities for me. It's put money in my pocket. It's gave me influence in certain situations where people will look to me and ask me certain things and listen to what I had to say and learn from me. And that's going higher and higher in life. And some people believe in using that influence in the right way. And I'm one of them people who's aware of that. That we got a lot of music nowadays, man. I mean, I'm sure you know that the kids, the youth, they're under the influence of, and it's leading them the wrong way. But it's really at a point of the people who are behind the scenes making money are exploiting people because it even affects stuff like the crime rate. It affects stuff like, you know, how these young ladies view themselves as young ladies, as young women, how our brothers are treating them, how they're treating themselves, the violence that's going on in our communities. A lot of it, man, if we be real, it's coming from the culture that's part of music, that's part of hip hop. It's powerful. And the youth is under the influence. Hip hop is definitely the most influential music. And if we be real, it's also the music that probably has the worst influence as far as what it's being used for. There was a point where it was going conscious, where people were using it for positive things, and that was short lived. And there are still some artists that are using it for that, but for the most part, it's just a means of making money. What sells? Sex sells, um, violence sells, drug sells, flashy, materialistic things, money sells, and that's what people are using it for these days. But it's powerful. Um, and I think that a lot of people are waking up to realize how powerful it is. A lot of people have known the whole time and are still using it in the wrong way to influence people down the wrong path. I'm trying to use it in a way where uh, I'm bringing some balance to what's going on. I want people to see, I want people to see God in my music because God is truly, essentially, what saved my life. Not just music was playing a role in that, but God is the only thing that can save you. And I think that sharing that in music is something that people are being more open to nowadays than ever before. Music being as independent as it is, you can say whatever you want to say. I'm choosing to use my music to speak life into people, to build people up instead of give them something that's going to poison them and tear them down. Everybody got a choice. Some people just in it for the money. Everybody got to choose what they're in it for. But yeah, man, music is powerful. It's one of the most powerful things that we have. Period.
So touch on your projects because you're a music artist. You told us that I know Stars and Stripes. You got some other stuff you're working on. Tell us about that, and then tell us what's your vision for it.
Yeah.
What's your vision? How is your music different than the other ones you just mentioned?
Yeah. So, man, I do a lot of stuff with music. Um, right now, I've been doing a lot of spoken word poetry. It's been opening a lot of doors for me. But I just got a single I put out called "Kill the Fear," and I'm getting ready to drop a new project called "Luminescent Light." Hopefully before the end of the year. But yeah, man, my music is like hip hop. I would call it music that's hip hop mixed with everything, because my music is rock, it's reggae, it's jazz, it's experimental. I have a lot of different influences in my music. It's not just hip hop. My taste for music is a wide ranging palette of music that I take in. Um, I like old school music. I like a little gospel. I like jazz. I like rock and roll. Like I said, reggae, funk. So I play a lot of instruments. I put that in my music. Um, but I feel like I've been doing a lot of things for a long time. But I also feel like I'm just getting started. Music is also, it's always changing, it's always evolving. So it's a challenge to stay current. It's a challenge to stay in a place where people are hearing what you're doing nowadays and they're open to it. But there's an audience for all types of music, regardless what you're doing nowadays. Like I said, the industry is so independent. It's an advantage to us artists more than ever before to not be relying on labels to get our music out, to just put your music out. And there's somebody out there who wants to hear the type of music you put out, regardless what you're doing. So yeah, like I said, I'm getting ready to put that album out. It's gonna be called Luminescent Light. Um, And yeah, look up Joshua Free. My first album was called Roots and Stars, uh, but that's the one I did in 2021, the end of 2021, and that's on all platforms as well. So I'm very confident in what I put out. Check it out when you get a chance. Um, but yeah, for
Awesome.
anybody that's watching, just look up Joshua Free, Kill the Fear. That's my newest single that I just put out.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So not only are you a music artist, but you were telling me earlier that you're an educator as well. Man, you wear many hats, man. Many hats. So I was talking one day and I said that it feels like we have stereotypes, like certain gender roles, like certain genders can go to this industry or do this job. And one of them we were talking about was teaching. You're a teacher. And I was saying that most of my teachers that I had growing up were women. I had a few men, but the men that I did have growing up, I remember them because they really impacted my life. I don't know because I'm a male and they were male and they shared certain things or imparted certain things in me. But I just want you to touch base with us as far as you being an educator and what you see and how that has gone for you as a teacher and as a man.
Yeah, so I've been blessed to work with the youth for a long time, man, almost 20 years, a lot of different capacities. Public schools, work with the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, after school programs all over the area. Right now, I'm teaching on the south side of Chicago, and I'm teaching music, and I'm also teaching PE. Uh, but I have a nonprofit organization that I'm running at this school, and so I'm working for myself. I'm also partnering with the schools. I work with public schools, and right now I'm working with private schools. Um, Nowadays, it's for me, it's good to be able to be myself when I'm in these schools. With public schools, there's a lot of restrictions. Sometimes there's an agenda of how they're teaching our kids and what they're giving them, and also what they're not allowing them to receive. And I think that I believe in Christian education. I do. Number one, because I believe in God. I believe that that's the foundation our kids need, but I also believe that we need to be able to be ourselves and give these kids God because this generation needs God. They're gonna get the world. They're gonna get so many things that are gonna take them away from God naturally because that's just the agenda. That's just the order of the day. But I believe that I believe highly in Christian education. I believe highly in private education where people have a right to give the kids a reflection of God, of that light that they need, and help balance out what they're already getting from the world these days. So it's a blessing, man, to be able to still be in contact with the youth. I love kids. I've always loved kids. To me, working with the kids, it definitely does keep you young. It keeps you feeling alive. It keeps you happy, man. Some people, it's a calling for me. It's not a job for me. So some people that might gray their hair early. For me, it keeps me alive. It keeps me feeling active, um, and it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing. It's something that I want to do more and more. Looking for people to partner with. You know, my program is called UPA, Unique Performing Arts Association, and it's a performing arts and education and entertainment company. So we educate, but we also provide entertainment through events, through demonstrations, etc. But it's all about making partnerships, networking nowadays. So it's a lot of programs I'm trying to partner with. Um, yeah, man, but it's just part of my call. It's part of what God's put in front of me to do. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing to give more than it is for me to receive from it. It's a blessing to give and impact this generation of youth positively.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Man, thank you, man. So how do you feel because you're a man and you're an educator and you're in that industry and what you've been through and what you've seen? How do you think that your voice makes an impact on those young kids that you teach?
Yeah, I think it's definitely needed for there to be more male teachers. Um, the school that I work at is predominantly women, and they're all great. Um, I'm blessed to be in a school where it's a very loving, family oriented environment. the parents are engaged with their kids, etc. I think from the top on down, that's kind of how things are going to go. So I'm blessed to be where I am. I think that more and more, I think growing up, I had a lot of female teachers as well, um, and there wasn't a lot of male teachers. So when I see somebody else besides myself that's a male teacher out there doing what I'm doing, I tip my hat to them because it's needed. These kids need to have that influence of a man. There's definitely some things that we can give them, that we can be a light to the young boys that are growing up, and inspire them to even take that route to be a teacher or educator themselves. But I think that there's things that us as men that only we can give them that they need. And I think that it's important that they have that balance, because, you know, I would say that the doors for women have been wide open, as far as business industry, whatever sector of life we're talking about nowadays. It's their day, if we be real. And that's no knock to them. I'm supporting them in that. But I also think it's definitely important that we maintain a place and a voice in this generation as well as men to be able to lay our imprints, to be able to be an influence to this generation that they need that balance. So I'm blessed to be able to do something about that.
Appreciate it, brother. So you just recently got married. We've been married about a year now.
Yeah, a little bit over a year, creeping on a year and a half, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So now that you've been married for that time, about a year and a half, talk to us, man, because you know there's some people who are jumping into getting married. They're thinking about getting married. You've been in there. You fresh a year and a half. Talk to me now. What do you know now about marriage that you didn't know before? What have you learned?
I think it's things that you can definitely only learn on this side of the fence. And people tell you that before, but I think when you're married, you start to understand that. But it's a true commitment, and it's a blessing if done right. And I think that you know we have to just be willing to be open, man, and share with others who are seeking marriage what it is. I've learned so much in a short time already. One thing I could just say is that to me, marriage is part of the assignment. It's part of what God has given us, and bringing two people together that both God has something He's trying to accomplish in their life, and being with somebody that is going to help you accomplish that purpose. Like that's the goal. Obviously, love is powerful. Love is one of the things that we need more than anything. So there has to be a basis of love, foundation of love as well, because love covers a multitude of sins. We're imperfect people, but I would say, you know, what I've learned, it's been a lot in a short time, and like I said, it's a serious commitment. It's a blessing if done right. But there's things that God has for us to do individually that He wants us to have somebody to help us accomplish those things with, and help us to accomplish things with, for the other person as well. And we just have to be willing to do our part for that to work. Uh, yeah, but I'm not going to try to rush anybody into it. It's something that you got to be ready for. I would definitely say do whatever it is that you can do while you're single so that when you get married, you can enjoy the marriage more and you'll just be ready to go and accomplish things together. But it takes two people that both have a vision to know that, this is my vision, this is my vision. Okay, how can we help each other accomplish these visions? That's how marriage needs to be ideally for it to work out. And marriage is tough these days, man. It's a lot of people that it's not for them. It's not for the weak hearted, as they say. It's a challenge to keep it 100. It's a real challenge. But like I said, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Awesome. Awesome. So you kind of answered the question, but I'm just gonna throw it back at you again. So let's say I'm getting ready to get married, right? I need some advice. I need some advice because I know you've been in for a year now, a year and a half. You went through it now. Give me some advice. What advice can you give me if I'm getting ready to get married?
Okay. I would say first, there's a few things that are very important. One I would say is peace. One I would say is unity. As it says in the Bible, how can two walk together unless they agree? And I think that those are two things that are foundational that everybody needs. You need to be with somebody who's going to help bring out the best in you, somebody who's going to see you for the best you and not the worst you, and somebody who's going to help try to bring that out, somebody who's going to speak life into you, somebody who's going to encourage you, have your back. But if there's a few things that I would say that you have to have, number one, peace, respect, honesty, and unity, being able to agree. And of course, God being the foundation of all of that. If you agree on that, the rest of that should be able to be attainable, should be possible if God is your foundation for both of you, because you have to be equally yoked, of course, above everything. If you believe in God, you need to be with somebody who believes in God like you do, and not somebody who's just doing it because you're doing it or vice versa. But you have to be equally yoked. And then outside of that, like I said, peace, respect, unity, being able to agree, being able to work together. Those are the most important things that I would tell anybody who wants to be married. Look for these things in a possible spouse.
Awesome, awesome. My brother, my brother. My brother, I want to thank you for taking the time to spend time with Open Doors, man. You were definitely a blessing. And let's go back because I messed up on your album, man. Roots and Stars, Roots and Stars, and the single. Where can we find all that at?
So everything's on all the platforms, on YouTube, on Apple Music, on iTunes, on Spotify, TikTok, all major platforms. Joshua Free, Kill the Fear, featuring 717 Kwani. So, check it out. Kwani's a dope, up and coming young artist. He's actually out in San Diego, by way of Chicago. But I've been blessing him for a while. He's singing on the track. He's been doing a lot of big things, and he's featured on the song. But it's just speaking about everybody is chasing a dream. Everybody has something to pursue in life. And sometimes our fears can be the thing that stops us or hold us back. And this song is about killing that fear. It's about killing that doubt. It's about believing in yourself. It's about believing in what God gave you to do, the talent, the gift that he's given you, and going all the way with it. And it's really just setting the tone for the project. Because even for me, being where I am as an artist, I have to constantly kill that fear. I got to constantly kill that doubt and believe in myself and remind myself, Josh, you got this. Josh, you was called to do this. You was called to go all the way. Don't let that doubt stop you. Kill that fear. So, yeah, check it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Joshua Free, it's a blessing that he could take time and stop by Open Doors. Brother, thank you again. To you who joined the podcast, I want to thank you. Remember, subscribe, share the podcast. And to the next time, I'm your boy, Chris Harris. I see you the next time around. God bless you.
Don't ever take nothing for granted, man. Hey, you gotta wake up and realize that